Inside of a company, you may have different types of databases that support business intelligence, or BI. The most traditional one is called an RDBMS, Relational Database Management System. These RDBMSs is what we typically think of when we think of a SQL or SQL server. There are many different types of SQL servers. You have MySQL, Microsoft's Transact SQL, Postgres SQL, and many others, in fact. But this is traditionally the type of database we think of when we think of a company database. It's made up of essentially tables that are related to each other with some sort of key. However, there's other types of data storage for a company that can also support business intelligence. There's one called an operational data store, or ODS. This is typically where data will go before it is actually organized and placed into something like an RDBMS. So for example, you may have your POS system send the data directly to an operational data store. That operational data store will temporarily hold that data until it can be processed, maybe at the end of the day, and then actually put into the data warehouse. The operational data store is kind of like a temporary holding place, but you can also use it as a quick reference and a way to get data really quickly out of a database, because it's going to only hold a small subset of your entire database and can also oftentimes respond to operations quicker. You also have something called an MPP, or massively parallel processing. In today's world, we actually need to consider the fact that our database might just be slow because there's too much data in it. And sometimes it makes sense to parallelize, or basically break up the computation into many small pieces, perform those computations on many different computers, and then put them back together. And this is actually what NoSQL type databases do, like Hadoop or Google's Firestore, or actually many companies have solutions for this today. Now, I didn't talk about a data warehouse yet, and let me talk about that, because a data warehouse certainly supports business intelligence, or BI, but it's typically considered to be a type of RDBMS, or a type of database, and it's a little bit different. So a data warehouse is the process of data aggregation and analysis with the goal of supporting decision making. You can think of a data warehouse a lot like a product warehouse. Products come from the supplier, it then gets organized and put onto shelves inside of a warehouse. Once that data actually is needed, or those products are needed in this metaphor, it then gets shipped out to the small stores, and then the small stores actually deliver it to the customer. It's quite a similar structure in most large organizations' data architectures. You'll have a data warehouse that holds a lot of different types of data, and it's organized, but most people don't need all of the data in the data warehouse. And so what many companies will do is create what's called a data mart, which is actually a smaller set of data that is kind of like a little convenience store or a small supermarket that you can go to and actually get whatever data you need that's actually from the larger warehouse. This also supports security, because now you don't need to have one giant database that's open to many different people. You can have only the sales and marketing team have access to the sales and marketing data mart. You can have only the operations team have access to the operations data mart. And in this way, you can help organize your data so that it's more secure. However, putting data into this warehouse and taking data out of the warehouse involves what we call an ETL process, or extract, transform, and load. This is basically the mapping, merging, and movement of data around to go into or out of a data warehouse. That's why we typically call data engineers plumbers, because they're actually responsible for creating these ETL pipelines. They're oftentimes referred to as pipes. Now, there's another concept in business intelligence data that you should understand, and that is called a cube, or an OLAP cube. OLAP stands for Online Analytical Processing. This basically allows you to have a snapshot or a pre-built analytics data structure that allows you to come up with consistent reports whenever you need them, and it will allow you to get answers very quickly. So an example I can give you is you want a report of the sales of all stores by region and by quarter, and compare these figures to last year's figures. This is actually a pretty common query, and a lot of business managers might want something like this if they're in a for-profit business. An OLAP cube actually supports this kind of organization, because you can simply ask this question. The OLAP cube is already designed to actually have this data in a way, And it's already structured in a way where you can slice it and dice it so that you can see exactly what you want. And the picture that you see on the slide is a nice illustration of this. You can think of an OLAP cube kind of like a Rubik's cube. And basically you might say, I want this particular color of this particular idea. And you can twist and turn the Rubik's cube to match up the two cubes that you want to put next to each other. And then you can actually now compare them. An OLAP cube is actually quite difficult to make, and it requires someone who has business intelligence experience to be able to make these inside the database. Now, OLAP cubes, though, are very powerful because it allows you to ask very important questions and get answers very, very fast. It doesn't require a database person, a business analyst, or a data scientist to go to the database, collect the data, then analyze it, and then create a report. An OLAP cube is designed to give reports immediately to whoever needs it whenever they want. In the next video, we're going to talk about big data. It's a popular topic for a lot of people, but I'm going to demystify what big data is, and we'll talk about some of the unique challenges and opportunities of it.